Diversity at the Deli by Alana, Henderson of Holmesville 2286. Narrated by Janine Penfold. Bob and I, baby boomers with rich and varied life experiences, invested in a caravan to give us relaxing weekends away from busy jobs. Travelling to many campsites, we met people of all ages and many different backgrounds. We learned much from these other adventurers, from young families on holidays, drifters who had discarded the shackles of convention, travellers from exotic countries, weekend warriors like ourselves, and grey nomads, contentedly ambling on the way to faraway destinations. We dared to see our weekend forays as places to explore, stories to share, and conversations spent comparing and describing snippets of our lives with strangers that, for a moment, became friends. We met transient friends whom we never saw again, and others who we kept rediscovering as we moved around on our brief sojourns. Unlike the belief, often fueled by popular media, that the generation gap is a negative phenomenon of distrust, we enthusiastically discarded the differences between us, the baby boomers, and the Gen X, Y, Zers, and the millennials we met. We had great fun learning new languages from the tech-savvy young, relentlessly tied to their phones and social media. We watched them with amazement when they fixed our temperamental Wi-Fi and devices as if the new computer age was part of their DNA. Differences in age, values and aspirations respectfully faded away from the moment like the light that secretly changed into warm and fragrant aromas on starry nights. Caravanning was the leveller that linked us with people we would otherwise never have met. Lazily sharing a few drinks around the campfire and watching the sun being slowly swallowed by the mountains or the sea. The frantic and hurried life of business was far away, and time slowed to a crawl where we had time to savour and appreciate new experiences. Initially, I often spent precious hours on Fridays, between serving customers in my business, making sure that our caravan was packed so we had all the comforts of home for the weekend. But as our confidence grew within this new culture, we were so enthusiastic about our adventure, we often picked up the car keys and left for the weekend without packing much at all. Roughing it became the norm. I was glad to leave the artificial business environment for the natural environment, where there were no expectations or judgment, and where thongs and faded cotton shorts were de rigueur for baby boomers, mingled with bare midriffs and bikinis of millennials. When we arrived on site, I quickly learned to grab simple and healthy foods at local supermarkets or caravan park shops for our weekend menu. Assisted by my trusty 50-year-old pressure cooker, which took up permanent residence in the caravan, I easily turned them into delicious meals in a few minutes. We had no affinity with the highly processed takeaway food chains that we found everywhere and frequented by the younger generations. Bob often remarked to other caravanners that I could make a dinner out of a bay leaf, as the wafting smells of home cooking from our caravan was often a drawcard for new and old friends and neighbours. Just as we marvelled at their expertise with technology, I frequently offered young caravanners ideas for simple, delicious recipes as a cheap alternative to their expensive takeaway diets. They were frequently amazed at how a few ingredients could be easily turned into delicious meals and treats that were cheap and delicious. How we relished that simple fare, drawn from my lifelong love of cooking that easily adapted to caravan life. Our life experiences highlight the differences in norms, behaviours and values of each generation. Bob had spent 25 years of his life growing up in a poor area of England before migrating to Australia as a 10-pound pom after World War II. As a child, his resourceful mother fed her children at a time when food was rationed and nothing was wasted. For example, he developed a liking for black pudding a sausage manufactured from herbs and cereal mixed with the blood of slaughtered livestock. Bob's favourite Sunday morning breakfast in our caravan was traditional English Scottish fare of black pudding, bacon, squashy tomato, runny eggs and toast. Cooked on the barbecue, the black pudding took on a whole new flavour and intrigue for young breakfast visitors who had never heard of black pudding. Other baby boomers often shared the same liking for black pudding, but young caravanners at our communal breakfasts were often repulsed by the idea, much to our amusement. Nevertheless, Bob became a connoisseur of black pudding and eagerly sought different versions of this delicacy when we visited local shops. On one trip, the generation gap reminded us that it is alive and well. Following Bob's lead through a large supermarket to the delicatessen, I asked the young sales assistant if she had any black pudding. She looked at me with a blank face and said, "I'll check." I noticed that she went to two other sales assistants, both of whom were teenagers, and asked them the same question. They shook their heads, though one spoke with her a bit longer. The young assistant returned to me, standing at the counter, and in a very serious but confident manner said, "I think you'll find black pudding in the bakery aisle." We politely thanked her, turned away with a smile, and within a few steps collapsed with laughter. The generation gap was indeed alive and well. The end.